Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if she's cooperating?
It's something I haven't thought about. It's really something. It's something I'm allowed to do it.
Shortly after this entire Jeffrey Epstein round, whatever it is, began, and Donald Trump started deflecting and trying to distract from his involvement with his, by Jeffrey Epstein's own account, his best friend of 15 years. Shortly after it began, about 10 days ago or so is when I made this prediction that I talked about yesterday, that there would be a concerted cover-up on the part of Donald Trump, on the part of the administration, on the part of Republicans, on the part of influencers in my space, but on the right-wing side. And I said that they would push for a pardon. A lot of people pushed back. A lot of people said, well, that's not true. Even after they started rolling back their opinions about Ghislaine Maxwell and having her do meetings at the DOJ, people said, yeah, but that's not a pardon. There's been no pardon talk. Until just a few minutes ago on the White House lawn when Donald Trump was speaking to journalists in one of his wide-ranging helicopter talks right before he got on Marine One, which is the helicopter on the White House lawn. I have 3 clips here I want to talk about. All of them involve covering up. One of them is Donald Trump straight up saying, I will give you names. I will give you names of hedge fund managers and all these other people so you can go track that down in an effort to distract away from my involvement in this. Let's start here, though, where he tells the reporters, look, here's what you should focus on. Anything else other than this, anything else other than my involvement and friendship and closeness with notorious sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
Out of his meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. What are you hoping Todd Blanche gets out of his meetings with Ghislaine Maxwell?
Well, I don't know about the meeting. I know it's taking place, and he's a fantastic man. He's a great attorney, and people should really focus on how well the country's doing, or they should focus on the fact that Barack Hussein Obama led a coup, or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about. And they should speak about them, because they don't talk about them. They talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy.
Don't focus on the Epstein files that I promised I would release and now I'm not. Don't focus on my involvement and great friendship with a notorious sex criminal. Don't focus on that. Focus on how Obama did the things I'm saying he did but have provided zero evidence of. Focus on how hot the country is right now. Focus on those things. Don't look at me. Don't look at my criminality, potential or otherwise. Don't do that. No. And they press, and he starts spilling. He starts giving names. It's all still about the focus, but now he's giving them things to focus on.
Who's eager to get out of prison?
Well, you know, he's a professional lawyer. I think he's been through things like this before. But, you know, you should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, should not be part of the
So we have, this scandal has devolved to the point where Donald Trump is ready to just throw people under the bus. If you have names of people who were criminally connected or connected in a way that makes them suspect, provide the list, Donald Trump. Why would you hold on to this for years and years and years? Only giving it when it will extricate yourself from trouble. And then on to bolster the prediction, the prediction I made 10 days ago, a week and a half ago, about the pardon. Donald Trump is now floating the possibility of pardoning notorious, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell.
Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if she's cooperating?
It's something I haven't thought about. It's really
If they
something.
recommended it
It's
to
something
you,
I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not
you're
thought
not, but
about.
you wouldn't rule it out.
Why has the dollar?
Yeah. You haven't thought about it at all. But I'm allowed to do it. I'm allowed to do it. And Republicans, elected Republicans certainly, almost exclusively are in lockstep with Donald Trump to defend him. He is guilty as the sun is bright. And they're still here. All of the logic, all of the reason, all of the rationality that the rest of us employ to navigate this. It's like, well, why is he, if he's not guilty, if he hasn't done anything, then why not just release everything? Who cares? He's given us this other weird list of names. Why not just release the documents? All of them. Not grand jury. That's up to a judge. What does the Department of Justice have right now? Release them. It seems pretty shady. Are these purchased views? Is this an outside influence like Russian support? I don't know. Something very fishy, something suspicious is going on in the sphere of right-wing media influence. There's a Substack out there, a blog out there. Is that what they're calling them, blogs? From Kyle Tharp. He runs the Chaotic Era Substack newsletter. That's what it is, not blog. And he analyzes the performance, especially in this era, the chaotic era. It's a great, I subscribe to his newsletter. I would suggest you do too. But he analyzes the growth and the success and the metrics generally related to political media in some of what he does. There's a whole bunch of else that he does, but this is specifically what I want to talk about today. And Kyle Tharp has uncovered that Benny Johnson, the Benny Johnson that took millions of dollars from Russia to promote propaganda, to disseminate propaganda that was useful to the Russian government, that was helpful to the Russian government, that was certainly sympathetic to the Russian government position on their brutal invasion of Ukraine and the continued slaughter of civilians. And he took money from Russia. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And his YouTube channel right now is banging out some new subs. 2+ million in this last quarter. Let me say this. There's going to be an ask at the end of this video, and I'll just do it now. Subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed right now. Independent media is very important, but independent media with our flavor, our viewpoint on the world, to make it more inclusion based, to make it more diverse, to make it more empathetic, needs your help. If you're not subscribed to this channel, help the ecosphere by subscribing. And I'll make another plea at the end here, but let me show you this particular chart here. It's kind of a sphere, speaking of spheres, and it shows that really it's more red than blue, which is a problem. Again, subscribe. But you've got your big wigs, Joe Rogan and Fox News up here, and then you've got, let me get my glasses, some larger left wing or left-ish wing. Vice, I don't know if they're liberal, or Vox, I don't know if they're necessarily liberal, but MSNBC Daily Show, you've got your David Pakman up here, you got your Brian Tyler Cohens, and then I'm all the way down here at the bottom. We'll zoom in on that. Do we need to zoom in even more because I'm so small? Okay, let's zoom in one more time. And I'm down there at the bottom. So please subscribe, please. I'll do the Jeb Bush please clap thing. I want to read through just briefly because this is the growth. I'm not even on this chart. This is what's happening with Benny Johnson right now. This is the on Threads from Kyle Tharp. This week's unsolved mystery: how did right-wing YouTuber Benny Johnson grow by 2.2+ million YouTube subscribers in the second quarter, dwarfing the growth of every other top political channel? I have the same question, mainly because I know how this shit works. And when you increase in subscriber count that much, naturally you would presume that there would be an increase in views on the channel as well. And that's just not the case. Benny Johnson, his videos are no more watched than mine. He puts out no more content than I do. We have relatively a similar makeup relative to our channels. We're both kind of one-man bands. I don't know who edits his stuff. I've got producer Chris. I got Brittany Page, but she has nothing to do with this channel. She really does her own thing. We host a podcast together, but generally speaking, this has been a one-man band for a long, long time. What's going on here? Here's the second post. What's weird is that Johnson's videos did not receive more views than other top channels last quarter. He received way less total views than Midas Touch, Fox News, and MSNBC. And then if you look at this, and then, well, actually, let me read the rest of the thread here. That makes me think there is some kind of paid acquisition campaign or shady behavior at play. And there's really no other way to look at this. So if you look at this chart here, 2 + 2 million. And if you look like even Midas Touch, which is on fire, growing at breakneck paces every single quarter. MSNBC seeing pretty great growth. Fox News even plus 600,000 over a quarter. Benny Johnson gaining no more views, 2.2 million. What's at play here? It seems pretty shady. Are these purchased views? Is this an outside influence like Russian support? I don't know. But if it is, why only subscribers and not views? Because one follows the other naturally, normally, right? Anyway, I really would impress upon you the importance, because there's money on the other side. Millions, $10 million Russia funneled in for 3 dudes, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool. The money doesn't flow on this. There is no money on this side. I've never taken a payment from some outside group. I do sheath underwear ads, but that's all transparent and in your face. You get to see that. Sometimes it irritates people. But that's how we fund this work. This is how we defray costs, able to hire staff and grow the operation in an effort to support our democracy, in an effort to defeat Donald Trump and his anti-democratic work that is well funded now by the federal government. Putting Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 as the North Star, the guiding principles for destroying our democratic republic. If you're not already, make sure you're subscribed. You might think you're subscribed because you watch my content all the time. Make sure.
It looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
In a fit of desperation, Donald Trump took Tim Scott over to the Federal Reserve yesterday to ambush Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and trying to humiliate him. Because right now, the only thing Donald Trump is focused on, the only thing the Republican Party as elected officials are focused on, is trying to get Donald Trump out of the controversy that he now rests with Jeffrey Epstein, his involvement, his best friendship, if you listen to Jeffrey Epstein, his deep, abiding affection for a convicted criminal, convicted abuser of children, trafficker of children. So Donald Trump goes to the Federal Reserve yesterday, brings out, this entire first clip is really just him literally, figuratively, but also literally trying to set the stage, to arrange the photo op exactly how he wants it. He reaches over and he grabs Powell and drags him into the frame, and then does the same for Tim Scott, gets him in there and asks him a question, all so he can whip out a piece of paper, have it all on camera, where he's kind of denigrating Jerome Powell for what he considers cost overruns for a construction project. And then he lies about a bunch of the details. And Jerome Powell doesn't treat him like a normal person would treat Donald Trump when in his presence. We've seen Democratic governors or mayors and governors. Gretchen Whitmer showed up in the Oval Office and tried to cover her face. We saw Muriel Bowser, the mayor here, my mayor here in Washington, D.C., up there listening to Donald Trump ramble and rant his conspiracy theories while having the seat next to him. It's never good. It's never good. They were silent. Jerome Powell was not. We're going to get to that. But first, here he is literally setting the stage for his photo op.
Mr. President, your role is here today.
Well, thank you very much. We're looking at the construction, and we're with the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening. And it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed, it's one of the reasons I wanted to see it, the overruns and the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
So we're taking a look, and
it's desperation. It's all he's got is this. He needed it perfectly framed to have it go viral in the media. The problem for Donald Trump is that it went viral, but for all the wrong reasons. Jerome Powell did not treat him with the requisite devotion like he's used to, being the dear leader of the Republican Party and leader of the MAGA cult. Jerome Powell did just the opposite. When Donald Trump whipped his little paper out and started talking about the cost overruns or whatever, Jerome Powell's like, what? If you watched it silently, when you see him look over, the thought bubble automatically in your head is, he's saying, what the f***? And he shakes his head and he verbally disagrees and pushes back against the lies, the propaganda, the conspiracy, the distraction that Donald Trump is trying to put forward here.
so we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody.
It just came out.
Our notes said it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2. This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the market renovation. You just added
entire capital.
and you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years later.
It's part of the overall.
It's not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. Expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So, any questions?
Yeah. There's nothing else to say about that. But I will say this about the next clip. And that is this entire, if you don't think how I've laid, because this is, by the way, from the beginning through to the end, this is it. If you don't think that this was contrived, that this was premeditated, you're not paying attention, because the first question out of, there hasn't been a clip here. There hasn't been a weird edit here. I led with I stop the clip and then I back up a couple seconds so you can see that it's the same thing rolling all the way through. The first question out of Jerome Powell correcting Donald Trump is obviously a setup. It is clearly meant to get this reaction from Donald Trump, asking, what would you do if the general contractor or the project manager on a blah, blah, blah was overcost? And Donald Trump says he'd fire them.
So, any questions?
As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire him.
Do you think this issue is
First of all, and it pains me to feel obligated to say it, Jerome Powell is the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States of America. He's not a fucking project manager on a construction site. Dum-dum. And you know that this was contrived and set up because Donald Trump gave his little, "I'd fire him." He wanted that to be the soundbite of the day. Fortunately for everybody else, and unfortunately for Donald Trump, the soundbite of the day is going to be him offering or saying he's allowed to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, as to the lie that Donald Trump just told with the paper and all that, here's how we know that is absolutely fabricated, is his stooges were asked by Caitlin Collins yesterday, Russell Vought and whoever the dipshit standing next to him is, she asked directly about this, and here's how you know they're lying. It's based on his wildly stupid answer.
Who is responsible for giving the president accurate information about what the cost is? Because Fed Chair Jay Powell was correcting him on live television.
No, he wasn't. What the president pulled out of his pocket.
They had two different numbers, is my point.
No, the president pulled out of his pocket a page from the FOIA request of the Fed's own internal documents that is available on their website.
So when he's saying there's a third building, you're saying he's wrong?
No. What the president is saying is the entire construction project that's going on, which is a build and renovation project over the last number of years, is currently at $3.1 billion. And what the Fed chair was saying was, no, you have to take one of the buildings out of it. Well, no, it's all one project on the whole complex.
Why do you disagree with that? If the building was already done and it's not part of what your issues are right now?
I don't know what you're saying.
Well, that's the most accurate thing you're going to hear out of that guy's mouth. I don't know what you're saying. How you know it's stupid is he says that was a FOIA request based on information that's on their website. The Federal Reserve's website? Why would you need a FOIA request for something that's publicly available on a government website? Guy. I don't understand what you're saying. Clearly. Anyway, distraction of the day. This is the Distractapalooza, day 3 or 4. And I'm happy to bring it to you.
She just might be a victim. She just might be. There was a rush to judgment. There was a lot of chaos there for a while.
The full-on cover-up of the Jeffrey Epstein saga involving Donald Trump is in full swing. I made a prediction a week and a half ago that there was going to be mutterings of rehabilitating the image, the character of Ghislaine Maxwell, that there would be talk of pardons, and we're now fully in it. I got a bunch of clips here. Stick around for all of this because this is why what I do is important. This is why what so many in my genre on YouTube, in my cohort here on YouTube, Midas Touch and David Pakman and the rest of all the good people who do good work. The reason what we do is important is because we can go out there and pull all the different sources, put them in one place and show you exactly what the narrative is. And that's what I've done here. And this is just over one day. These are just like yesterday's clips that show you exactly how deep and how conniving and how sinister this cover-up or attempted cover-up is. It starts with Mark Wayne Mullin, senator from Oklahoma. I used to think that John Cornyn was the dumbest member of the United States Senate. Then Trump came along and ushered in an era of dipshits, the likes of which the nation has never seen. And that's saying something because we used to have Confederates in the United States Senate. Mark Wayne Mullin here is trying to make his justifications for not releasing the documents, not voting to compel the release of the Epstein files. And in it, he literally says, the words come out of his stupid fucking mouth, that they're there to cover for Donald Trump.
What my colleague's resolution does is truly trying to tell the FBI and the DOJ how they can proceed in doing their job and how they can actually present the information. Basically saying that we want all that information to go through Congress. Well, I'm sure Congress has never once played politics with any information. I'm sure that this investigation will be handled much like other investigations into this administration that the Democrats have done over the last, 8 years. I'm sure this would be handled just like any other thing that they've tried to go after, like the baseless impeachments or the baseless special counsels or the unbelievable amount of charges they've tried to file against the president. I'm sure this would be handled the exact same way. What we're simply wanting to do here is give them cover.
What we're simply trying to do is give Trump cover. Cover for what, brother? I thought Donald Trump was innocent. Why would an innocent man need cover from something, Mark Wayne? Why would he need that? Yesterday, Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, his name is David Oscar Marcus. He hosts a podcast called For the Defense, which we're going to get to. And David Oscar Marcus gave a statement after his meeting with Todd Blanche. Remember the name? Todd Blanche used to be the personal attorney of Donald Trump, now is a high-ranking position within the Justice Department. And he met with Ghislaine Maxwell and David Oscar Marcus. And this was the attorney of Ghislaine Maxwell, David Oscar Marcus, speaking after that meeting.
We had a very productive day today with the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and Ghislaine Maxwell. First, we want to thank the Deputy Attorney General for being so professional with all of us and for meeting with us. He took a full day and asked a lot of questions, and Ms. Maxwell answered every single question. She never stopped, she never invoked a privilege. She never declined to answer. She answered all the questions truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability. And that's all the comment we're going to have today about the meeting. We don't want to comment about the substance of the meeting for obvious reasons, and we'll go from there. So thank you all so much.
Will you guys be coming back for a second day?
We're not going to comment on that now. Thank you.
So she's meeting with the DOJ. Full transparency. Didn't invoke her privilege. No, no, no. In fact, when she was seen walking back into prison, she was carrying a big box of documents. It would be a shame if the public were to learn that Todd Blanche and David Oscar Marcus, the attorney for Ghislaine Maxwell, were thick as thieves, were close, were admirers of one another. And if Todd Blanche, the now DOJ high-ranking official, was a frequent guest on David Oscar Marcus's podcast For the Defense.
People will get a lot out of it that you were willing to come on and talk to me for an hour about the case.
I was happy to do it, David. And I mean, in all seriousness to you, I know a lot of people that have worked with you. I know a lot of people who know you very well. I now consider you a friend and someone who I know pretty well. You are by far the best out there, and I'll always say yes to this podcast.
That seems like a conflict, does it not? The cover-up goes beyond government. It goes beyond. This is where they really want the cover-up to be successful, though. It's in the hands of right-wing ghouls and influencers like Charlie Kirk, like Benny Johnson, like Greg Kelly, who's a Newsmax journalist. Watch this from Charlie Kirk. Explain that where this needs to go is to get her a deal. Get her a deal to get her to talk, to get her to extricate Donald Trump from all the problems that he has put himself in. Watch this from the Zeppelin-headed, twitchy goof, Charlie Kirk.
And even people that are kind of temperamentally against President Trump, they're like, yeah, this has no legs. And that story has had no legs at all whatsoever. And so by credible information, as Todd Blanche puts in the statement, is that we should be a little bit, just let's say, concerned that prior administrations could have put something somewhere to try to hurt Donald Trump, as evidenced by this ridiculous Wall Street Journal piece. And I think the Wall Street Journal has lost a lot of credibility. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer has confirmed they are in discussions with the federal government about holding discussions. Maxwell is currently sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for sex trafficking, but is pursuing a claim that her trial was unfair, since she is still contesting her own case that may impact what she is ready to tell prosecutors. But maybe some kind of a deal could be reached for information. We will see.
Maybe some kind of a deal could be reached for information. We will see, says Charlie Kirk. This is what they're pushing for. This is absolutely what they're gunning for, what they are putting together, what they are facilitating, and it is being pushed through to MAGA world to get them to settle their jets, cool their jets, and stop trying to implicate Donald Trump. Stop demanding answers. They're going to rehabilitate her image so that she can't be considered whatever. The criminal, the vile child trafficker or enabler of child trafficking that she is. Newsmax's Greg Kelly was floating the idea that maybe she's the victim here, which will set up Donald Trump and the idea of pardoning her. Watch this from a credibly accused sexual criminal himself, Greg Kelly.
Blanche is the Deputy Attorney General, the #2 ranking official in the Justice Department, and he's about to meet with Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend in prison, Ghislaine Maxwell, to find out what she knows. Let's find out, what is this all about? And she's also been subpoenaed by the Oversight Committee. I think this is great. I do have a feeling that she just might be a victim. She just might be. There was a rush to judgment. There was a lot of chaos there for a while. All right, granted, she hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, and I know that's apparently not good, but she's in jail for how long now? 20 years, a 20-year sentence. Well, Alan Dershowitz is one of the greatest attorneys who ever lived, and he has this to say about the Ghislaine Maxwell situation, speaking with Newsmax veteran Eric Bolling.
Should Ghislaine Maxwell be behind bars?
She shouldn't be, but she is. She is really serving Jeffrey Epstein's sentence after he committed suicide. There was no one else to prosecute because there was no real information against anybody else. And so they went after her and they sentenced her to a sentence that would have been appropriate for Epstein, but not at all appropriate for her. And so she's appealing now, and I hope the appeal will be granted. She deserves to be out.
She deserves to be out. And maybe she never deserved to be in there in the first place. Now, how could you say such a thing? I mean, these are perverts. These are child molesters. We've heard that from whom? From the media? From prosecutors? Prosecutors prosecuted President Trump over nothing. I don't know, but I'm skeptical of everything and everybody these days, and you should be too.
And this comes on the heels of just the other day when Tim Burchett, he said the same thing, seated on the steps of the United States Capitol saying, well, maybe we could make a deal to reduce her sentence if she testifies favorably for Donald Trump.
The government has said in its filings that they don't trust her. She's a liar.
No, she is a liar, and she's a dirtbag. And,
so then why subpoena her if you can't trust her?
Well, because the one thing we got holding over her head is if we find out she lies, she goes back to her original sentence. And that's looking at lifetime. And if she's looking at maybe parlaying this into reducing her sentence, then we could have some leverage there.
Fix is in. The cover-up has begun, and you need to know about it. You need to share this information, whether it's this video or articles or these clips that you find on different websites. This is all information that people need to see. And in sharing it with your social media network, maybe some MAGA people will see it. That's really who we're trying to reach through to here, because without MAGA approval of Donald Trump, without MAGA worship of Donald Trump, he is but a normal politician. Without the cult, there is no cult leader. Then he's just a guy sitting on an apple box yelling into the street corner about Jesus or whatever. Maybe not Donald Trump, but Anyway, what do you think? Where am I wrong? You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Follow me on the social media. Speaking of @Dollemore, I am @Dollemore everywhere. Not active on the Nazi Twitter, but I'm on Blue Sky and Threads and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, all of them. It is a miserable time, but it's 2025, so that's what we do. We just subject ourselves to misery.
The second he started talking about Obama, I was like, oh, he's guilty.
Yeah.
Also, why are you talking about Obama and treason?
There's a whole ecosystem of right-wing podcasters that are made up of political activists and defunct journalists and a bunch of types, but also like comedians, like Joe Rogan and this Andrew Schulz guy. I don't know much about his comedy. I do know that he was very instrumental in getting Donald Trump elected this time around, platforming all of these Nazi ideas, these fascist ideas, these anti-democratic candidates like Donald Trump and these bootlickers like J.D. Vance. They love having these types on, covering for them, making excuses for them, yucking it up at the prospect of mass deportation. And Andrew Schulz yesterday on his podcast, is really letting MAGA world know that he is embarrassed. I think he feels humiliated by his role in providing Donald Trump cover for the Epstein crimes. He says as much here. He has followed it as close as anybody else. He's had Kash Patel on his show, I think. All of these idiots he's had on. And now that Donald Trump really does appear to be guilty, it really does seem very possible that Donald Trump has and it seems to be maybe, possibly, who knows, a bridge too far for Andrew Schulz, who here in this clip says as soon as Donald Trump started talking about Obama, he was like, oh, he's guilty. And I'm not talking about Obama. Watch this.
Trump is like, hey, the base thinks vaccines are fucked up. RFK, get in there.
January
Research
6th,
the vaccine.
they want him out.
They want him out. We're putting him out. And this, he is rebuking the base, almost like spitting in their face. They are asking for it. He campaigned on it. He puts Bongino and Cash in there, which might be the stupidest thing in the history of the world. Why would you put the two guys that have nonstop pounded the pavement talking about how we're going to expose this Epstein thing, and the second they get in there, you better shut the fuck up.
Yeah, to shut him up.
Go on Rogan, lie. It is a very peculiar thing. It worked in that I think it moved any of the smoke off of Trump, because at least for me, I was like, there's no way that he's involved if he's putting Bongino and Cash in who have campaigned on exposing it. Why would you hire those guys or appoint those guys, right? So I'm like, he can't be. But the fact that he will not touch this, and then this last week, him doing the bullshit distractions,
bro,
dropping the MLK file. Who asked for the MLK file?
Yeah.
Who asked for MLK?
You know what's funny is I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, and I was initially like, the Epstein thing for me was just the last straw in terms of you not getting things done. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure there's some smoke, they'll release it. But the more they're doing to hide it, the more I'm like, oh, they're hiding something crazy. Yeah. I didn't necessarily, I was like, there's probably something.
The second he started talking about Obama, I was like, oh, he's guilty.
Yeah.
Also, why are you talking about Obama and treason? You got a guy who has sex with teenagers that you are protecting.
Also, some of the lies are other pedophiles. Yeah. Trump is protecting other pedophiles.
Facts.
That's what
other pedophiles. Impregnated in that statement is that Donald Trump himself is a pedophile. If he's protecting other pedophiles, right? There's a lot there. If you're looking for this episode on their YouTube channel, it's the one where Ezra Klein is the guest, formerly of Vox. I think he's now with the New York Times, a popular podcast. He's acknowledging that Donald Trump is spitting in the base's face. That's to put it lightly. He's called them stupid. He's called them all kinds of invectives, people who are getting bamboozled by the Democrats or whatever. That this new conspiracy theory where they want to arrest Barack Obama, despite the fact that he has unlimited immunity from prosecution while covered for acts in the presidency, just like Donald Trump. I guess his presidency is not legitimate enough because he's a black guy. And only Donald Trump gets that kind of special treatment. That's where we are here. Like, what are you talking about, Obama? You got a guy who had sex with teenagers that you are protecting. Here is why this is so great. It's because MAGA world and these younger voters, like low propensity voters, they watch this show. They respect Andrew Schulz. They get their news and their worldview from dipshits like this. Comedians. I guess it's only a step down from getting your news and information and way to think about things from a guy like me. But I worked in politics and around politicians for years and years and years, decades. I understand the system. I understand the Constitution of the United States. I understand the military. I understand the formation of how things get done in this country. I don't know how much Andrew knows, being a funny guy, if that's what he is. Again, I don't know much about him, but I do know the influence he has in this world, and that is what's most important. That people are listening to this, people are hearing this, and they will absorb it. Because when they go to their other podcast, whether it be Joe Rogan or some other right-wing dipshit, they're going to be hearing the exact same thing or something similar from a different viewpoint. And it'll start to cause them, their support to evaporate. They're going to start seeing the forest through the trees or whatever the saying is, and realizing that the thing they once believed based on the words of Donald Trump isn't true. They'll start piecing things together that if the Democrats created this list, why'd they hold on to it forever and not release it, trying to damage Donald Trump? It doesn't make any sense that Obama and Hillary Clinton and James Comey and James Clapper and John Brennan and Susan Rice and Joe Biden, that all of these people created, fabricated, criminally doctored U.S. intelligence to hurt Donald Trump and then not release it. Donald Trump's the one who promised to release this and then dispatched over 1,000 employees of the Federal Bureau of Investigation to scour the case files for his name. And back in May, he was told, "Sir, with tears in my eyes, I regret to inform you, you're all over the fucking Epstein files, bro." And then it was decided, we're not going to release this. Screech, tire screech, sound effect, enter here, boing. We're not doing it because it will implicate Donald Trump. So I guess between May and now, it was them trying to fabricate a story, come up with some kind of a narrative that would distract the base, but that's not working because this has been the thing that they've had a lockjaw on. This is the thing they've been attached to for years. QAnon and other elements, disparate elements of conspiracy land that believe this to be true. That there's this cabal of rich people who have an organization where they drink blood and kill babies or whatever. There are great gradations of the nuttiness here. But Donald Trump's not doing himself any favors in MAGA world. And this is a choice piece of that.
Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. Did President Trump have anything to do with the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's show?
I speculated the other day that Donald Trump absolutely had involvement in the firing of Stephen Colbert. And it seems as though I was right. Not that I'm some kind of a psychic or genius or had my thumb on the ear to the railroad track or the ground or whatever the metaphor is. Everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall. They knew that at the very least, indirectly, Donald Trump had a role to play in the firing of Stephen Colbert, who's the host of the most popular, highly rated late night show in the country, who got fired for economic reasons. So if Stephen Colbert isn't making money for CBS, none of these other guys, the Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, none of them are making money either because they're not number one in the space. He is. I think that's a bit of a mistake because I think Seth Meyers, he'd be my guy. I love Stephen Colbert, but Seth Meyers brings me laugh out loud kind of enjoyment on his closer look. Anyway, this episode brought to you by Seth Meyers, I guess. So yesterday, though, Bill Hemmer, one of the news anchors on Fox News, is interviewing Brendan Carr, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commissioner. And he's asked directly. He doesn't beat around the bush, Bill Hemmer. He doesn't skirt the issue. It's not a sideways question. I believe he says directly, did President Trump have anything to do with the cancellation of Colbert's show? And much like with so many other things, what isn't said is more powerful than what is said. The question is direct, it is pointed, it is clear, it is obvious, and it is avoided. He does not come right out and answer it, even when pressed again. When he gives the answer, Bill Hemmer says, I didn't hear an answer there, he still doesn't answer. That should tell you everything you need to know about Trump's not indirect involvement in the firing of Stephen Colbert, but direct.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. Did President Trump have anything to do with the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's show?
Well, here's what's important to keep in mind is a broader dynamic. When President Trump ran for election, he ran right at these legacy broadcast media outfits and the New York and Hollywood elites that are behind it, and he smashed the facade that these are gatekeepers that can control what Americans think and what Americans can say. And once you do that, you've exposed the business model of a lot of these outfits as being nothing more than a partisan circus. And so I think there's a lot of consequences that are flowing from President Trump deciding, I'm not going to play by the rules of politicians in the past and let these legacy outfits dictate the narratives and the terms of the debate. And he's succeeding. Just look at what's happening. NPR has been defunded. PBS has been defunded. Colbert is getting cancer. You've got anchors and news media personalities losing their jobs. Again, all of this is downstream of President Trump's decision to stand up. And he stood up for the American people because the American people do not trust these legacy gatekeepers anymore. And all of this, I think, is consequences of that broader dynamic.
Okay, I asked you a very direct question. I did not hear a yes or a no in your answer. I heard a maybe.
Yeah, ultimately, these are business decisions for CBS to make and for these outfits to make. And I'm, shocked at the type of stuff that you just played. They don't find to be in their profitable business interests.
One, not an answer. None of that is an answer. But what he didn't say should tell you everything you need to know. Talking about gatekeepers, about what people can say. And here's part of the problem. This is has a chilling impact on the First Amendment of the Constitution. If a president is getting involved in what late night shows, who they hire and what they say, and if they don't say a thing that Donald Trump approves of, they get fired. This is like state media type of shit. CBS has bent the knee so readily, so aggressively, so obsequiously to Donald Trump that I don't know that they're ever going to be able to regain their reputation back. This is the network of 60 Minutes that is now given Donald Trump $16 million to make a case go away so that they could merge with another company. It's seeking favor from the cult leader and giving him everything he wants, including the silencing of critics of his policies and, hell, of himself as a human being. You know who's next? People in my space. The Brian Tyler Cohens and the David Pakmans and the smaller, yet just as substantial, the Jesse Dollemores, the Luke Beasleys, the million-plus channels, and the smaller channels. They'll be next. This is going in gradation. They're going for the big fish first, and when they're gone, the only people left to attack, to silence, are people like me. And then it'll be people like you. They don't have the resources necessary to do it all at once. They're doing the frog in the pot thing, which isn't a real thing, but you know the metaphor. Well, I believe him because he's releasing the MLK files, y'all. The other day, Tim Burchett left the White House and he was yucking it up about why he changed his vote, his idea, his sentiment, his ideology relative to the spending bill. And he was just giddy, beside himself, that he got a little goodie bag from Donald Trump. And Donald Trump suggested that he liked seeing him on TV. And it made his heart gleeful because the dear leader said good things about me.
The president was wonderful, as always, informative, funny. Told me he liked seeing me on TV, which is kind of cool. I'm incredibly humble. What he signed for you? Yeah, he signed a bunch of stuff. It's cool.
Now, obviously, that's a problem. It's a problem on multiple, from multiple facets, multiple angles. It's problematic. Chiefly is that we have such stupid people in Congress. Them daggums. Oh, they daggums. Tim Burchett is a dipshit. He's not a smart man, and we need to stop electing stupid people to high office. It's something I've yelled about, screamed about, cajoled you to stop doing, cajoled me to stop doing. Just everybody stop electing stupid people to Congress. And Tim Burchett is kind of like the male version of a Lauren Boebert or a Marjorie Taylor Greene. He I don't know if he's feigning folksiness, like daggum, all the time with his, he's too much of a mighty, righteous, pious man of God, a respecter of Jesus and the philosophies of the Christ, that he wants to defend a credibly accused pedophile in Donald Trump. But he's so happy that Donald Trump loves seeing him on TV that he wants to get out there. He wants to really just make his mark on the nightly shows. So he was on with Casey Hunt talking about Donald Trump and why he thinks Donald Trump is innocent of what everybody thinks he's guilty of related to Jeffrey Epstein. And he's trying to convince here that the question is, if they're not covering up, I'm reading it here, if they're not covering up for him, why aren't they releasing the documents? And his answer is just, I guess it's what a stupid person thinks a smart person would say. It is, after all, Tim Burchett. Watch this.
I don't want to see any child pornography. So, frankly, that sickens me to my core. But I would like to see what's in those, and I have no earthly idea.
Right. Well, and
I know
President Trump campaigned on releasing these files, right? President Trump said that these files should come out, and if they're not covering up for him, why aren't they releasing them?
Look, let me address that. He was asked 2 different times on the campaign if he would release them. He also said he would release the UFO files, and the Kennedy files, and we're getting in the Martin Luther King. Now we're getting the Martin Luther King files. So it wasn't in any kind of printed material that I saw. It just was asked out on the campaign trail, and he said he would. So I don't feel like he's lying. But again, the Biden administration's had this for 4 years, and you know good and well, if Donald Trump was in there, if he was implicated in any shape, form, or fashion, they would have released him the first day. And that's why the politics has entered into it. I just wish we could get back to taking care of the victims and going after the guilty. And I'm afraid we never will in this town because everybody's trying to cover their rears.
Okay, so wait, what? You think Donald Trump, you believe Donald Trump is not covering anything up relative to the Epstein files because he released the MLK files. Last time I checked, maybe I'm just uninformed, Tim Burchett, but I don't think that Donald Trump is implicated in any crimes related to the assassination of the late, great Martin Luther King Jr. Last time I checked. But on the other side of that, Donald Trump is indeed implicated, accused, related to, has a relationship with, or at least did before his death, with Jeffrey Epstein. That's why he's covering it up. Well, I believe him because he's releasing the MLK files, y'all. And when asked why his name would be all over the files, because again, this is the point of contention for the true believers of the Jeffrey Epstein elements of the story that are conspiratorial, and the ones that are just kind of fact-based. Why is Donald Trump's name all over the files? Why did he seek preemptively to have 1,000 plus FBI employees and hundreds of agents? Why did he have them scouring the files to log entries where his name was mentioned? If he's not guilty, if there's nothing to worry about, just release it all. And Tim Burchett's answer is just record-breaking stupid. Watch this.
I don't think he's all over the files because he knew the guy. And Palm Beach or wherever the heck that is, I've never been there. I've never been invited down to the president's pad down in Florida. It's a small knit little community. Yeah, he knew. 15 years ago, though, it's pretty much documented that he banned him from Mar-a-Lago because he was a dirtbag. So, it's pretty obvious what's going on with both sides. I just want to get to the bottom of it, ma'am. I passed some of the toughest laws in the country when I was in the legislature. ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children, distribution laws. I've sponsored chemical castration, death penalty for child molesters. As I've said many times, I've held the hand of many a person who's been abused, and they carry a life sentence. And dadgummit, it's time to say to those people, let's remove that stigma from their life. Let's go after the guilty, and let's protect the innocent.
The problem is that you don't know who the guilty and the innocent are, Tim Burchett. You're defending a violator of human rights on a scale we've never seen before in this country, maybe since the abolition of slavery. Donald Trump, I mean, you look at COVID, you look at the mass deportation, you look at the absolute disregarding of the Constitution and the rule of law, the separation of powers. But you're here for that. You're here to ignore all of the questions, all of the evidence up to this point, and just go with what Donald Trump says because of the MLK files and whatever other nonsense here, that they were friends in Palm Beach. Well, of course, he's on the list multiple times because they lived near one another. So are you saying all of Jeffrey Epstein's neighbors they're just riddled in the list? In the Epstein files, Tim Burchett, is that what you're saying? I'd love to get to the bottom of that. The only problem is we can't because Donald Trump won't release the files. It's all you got to do is release them. Because if there isn't anything to worry about, if Donald Trump isn't covering anything up, why won't he release them? Don't tell me it's about protecting the innocent. Donald Trump was out on the lawn today saying, I will give you lists of hedge fund managers who lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I'll give you all the dirt. Go investigate that. Don't look at me. Don't look this direction. Look elsewhere. Focus on other things. Just like an innocent guy would do. He's trying to make a jail cell deal here when he's not even in jail yet. Because you know what is not an official act of the President of the United States? You don't get immunity for that, Donald Trump. I mean, maybe from the Republican Supreme Court you will. They'll twist it somehow to make it the way. Anyway, what do you think? Are we going to stop collectively electing stupid people to high office? Man, I hope so. Comment below. Make sure you're subscribed. Call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere. And if you want to help support this work, become a channel member for $2 a month. Click the join button below, or you can go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Nightmare. Be genuine. Take care of one another.